Hello and welcome to DCP SideQuest episode number 2. We've got a pretty packed week of stuff to talk about, which I'm very excited about.
Nerd news.
Nerd news. Lots of nerd news. Today we got myself, we got Briar Rabbit, we got Eric's, and we got Ms. 5000 Watts on the show talking about all the nerd news that's going on.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we are going to talk about Game of Thrones, and if you're worried about spoilers, that will not be happening until the very end of the show. So you're good if you want to hear some other stuff.
We're not holding back on spoilers once we get going.
We're definitely not going to be holding back.
We'll give you plenty of warning when it's happening, and you can enjoy the rest of the show without worries. Don't worry about getting spoiled.
Yeah.
Unexpected.
Yeah.
Should I get the air horn as an alert?
The Faze
I
air
will switch
horn?
my lights to wintry blue.
So yeah, it's going to be a great show. Very excited about it. I do want to say thank you to all our Patreon supporters as well for making the show happen. You guys are definitely making these podcasts a reality for us. So we do appreciate all that. And let's get into it.
Absolutely.
Look, someday I have a dream
Yeah.
of towing my jet ski with my Ferrari. That's not going to happen without Patreon.
You're right, Briar.
Really need you to get in there. Really need you to get in there.
I like this dream. The Ferrari dream. Briar just keeps the Ferrari dreams alive, guys. It's
The
great.
Ferrari dream
Yes.
must stay alive.
Yeah.
And that Ferrari is
V12, none of this V8 bullshit.
There you go.
So what's the first topic? Let's get into it.
Rage 2. Tefty, you got a chance to play Rage 2. You finished the campaign,
Okay,
right?
yeah, we're talking Rage 2. All right, yeah, I did. I started it Monday. I actually got sick. First time I got sick on stream. It was super weird. I had a little stomach flu. That's besides the point.
That.
You know, besides the point about Rage 2, but I just want to say, you know, that happened the first time.
Was it related?
The game was that bad?
Wow.
I'm joking.
What a review.
Made me
Gave me
sick
stomach
to
flu.
my
I'll
stomach.
play again.
I was feeling real sick.
I'll be honest, I was worried that I was actually getting motion sick. And a lot of people did get motion sick from the game. It turns out it was a flu bug for me. But a lot of people were getting some motion sick type of stuff from the game.
What was that about?
Just the way they render the graphics and they like the certain effects and all that. It's a visually satisfying game, and it feels very like Cyberpunk, Mad Max type of thing going on with it. I really enjoyed it. I will say it's a short game though, so if you go into Rage 2 expecting like some Witcher experience, you know, or God of War or something like that, it's going to fail in that department. It's not going to deliver those type of moments for you. What it is going to deliver, though, is very satisfying combat. Butt slams, shotguns, sliding, force pushes. Like, that stuff is really, really cool. And it looks beautiful, too, the way they do that.
One of the complaints I've heard about the game is that the combat feels awesome and there's plenty of abilities to use, but there's no actual real reason to use them. Like, the combat is actually pretty easy to just get through with a auto rifle, and you can just kind of like one review that I read, the guy actually never got like his kind of super ability, like because the game bugged out and he finished the game without it.
So yeah.
Oh, no way.
So apparently if you just brute force through the campaign, yeah, you can essentially not have a ton of things because you have to go and explore the world to get those upgrades. Yeah, not to make a parallel with Breath of the Wild, but Breath of the Wild was kind of like a similar thing where you didn't have certain things unless you went and explored throughout the world, you know? And you can bypass quite a bit and just go straight to the end. Well, I mean, I think there's like 8 missions, so kind of bypass. Or you explore the world, and the world is fun to explore, and you get really cool bits of gear and all that. So,
what kind of like world exploration is there? Is it like a lot of lore out there, or is it mostly like kind of public eventy kind of stuff where you're kind of running across outposts like Far Cry? Or
yeah, kind of like think Far Cry meets Doom, Mad Max type of thing. Far Cry I felt like was more fleshed out because there's some areas of the game where you kind of feel like they maybe ran out of time to really flesh it out to give it uniqueness. You know, kind of.
Oh, interesting. Interesting you say that, considering our final topic. Continue.
Parallels. Yes. Yeah, there is it's a sandbox game in my opinion, and what they deliver in that sandbox game is a lot of fun. Like I said, butt slamming, force push, whip out the shotgun, you go into your berserk rage mode. Like that all is extremely fun. But when it comes to story, boss design, level design, it's definitely not going to be Doom levels. And it is open world. So the open world at times kind of feels like in a juxtaposition of what the combat wants to be. So it's cool to be able to go and explore and see these different environments. But at the same time, the pacing gets kind of thrown off with you wanting to be like some crazy Doom Slayer type of thing.
Okay. Do you find that like in any of the... Because I've always found whenever you have those games where like their big marketing selling point is like, yo, you can do these crazy things. Like you can, as you said, like you can force push and do all these damn things. Like I often find that with those games, when you first start playing them, it's really cool. But then once that novelty wears off, like I think back to like Bulletstorm, for example, when I played that, like at first it was really cool. But then suddenly like, when you're like 5 hours in, you're like, I've kind of already got bored of like, head stomping these enemies and like force pushing them and kicking them through. Like, so towards the end of the game, was it still enjoyable, or do you find that kind of wore out?
This is interesting. It's interesting you bring that up because normally I would say, yeah, you're probably going to like wean off pretty fast on something like this. But what they did was give you very extensive skill trees. So it's initially when you start looking at all of it, it's overwhelming because everything has like a skill tree. You're like, whoa, I got investment points to spend and these things. There's a whole bunch of things to keep in mind when you're upgrading. Like every weapon has upgrades, every ability has upgrades. So like you could upgrade to double jump, and then the double jump can get like a floaty warlock jump.
That's crazy.
God knows why they'd put a floaty warlock jump in there. When you get the butt slam, it's initially just a slam on the ground, and then you start upgrading it. You get like a black hole upgrade, and then it does more like
black hole upgrade for your butt slam.
Yeah, it makes a little black hole in the ground that you're looking at that sucks the enemies in, and they're like, oh my god, and then bam, and it's very satisfying when that happens. Like there wasn't any time where I was like, that boring butt slam again. So the way they combated that, like maybe that 5 hour fatigue, is all those upgrades that you could explore or basically unlock. But that itself definitely had expiration as well. So I probably spent about 15, maybe 20 hours in the game. And by the time I finished the final campaign, I knew that the campaign was short, so I purposely avoided a lot of campaign stuff to go and collect all these things.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the time I finished the campaign, I was like, cool, had my fill. It was fun.
So that 15 hours, that wasn't just you beelining through the main quest.
I was exploring.
Really?
That was actively trying to like explore everything, right?
Wow. Well, for an open world game, that seems really quick.
Yeah, it is for sure. Yeah, it's not like Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Definitely not like that. But there is story and lore in there. But for me, it was just purely a vehicle or the sandwich bread to deliver the combat,
So no need to play Rage 1 to get caught up.
Definitely not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you recommend people purchase this for $60? Wait for it to go on sale? What do you think?
If you're looking for story or like I said, if you're looking for a Witcher experience, you're going to have a completely opposite. You're going to be disappointed if you spend $60
I think you'd be disappointed with any other game if you're looking for a Witcher.
That's true.
Apart from Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. Like it's tough to judge value on that stuff. Like if you're looking for something that's going to last you because you can only spend $60 once every 2-3 months, then probably not the game.
Right.
Although there is updates and stuff coming. They do plan on having some sort of world event type of stuff. That seems to be the buzz nowadays, With these type of games, there's like world events coming. It's going to change.
Yeah.
Some new drop is going to happen. So that might change. I don't think it's going to make it like suddenly you have 20 more hours in the game to really plow into. But
yeah,
I'd say if you picked it up on sale, then you'd be happy.
Right.
Like a $20, $30 purchase, you'd be like, this is fun.
What about the replayability of the game? Do you see any replayability in it? Is the different perks that you can get on your skill tree, is it worth going through again to get different perks?
Your first playthrough, you can pretty much unlock them all if you spend the time.
Okay.
So you're not going to have, it's not like a either or type of skill tree. You're going through and you're unlocking everything as you play.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish some of the weapons were also more bombastic. Because I ended up just using the shotgun mostly because it was the most satisfying thing. But that being said, like the slide, shoddy, butt slam, force push, repeat gameplay loop was great.
Yeah. That's what I've heard. Just heard combat was phenomenal, and the rest of it was kind of just like, this is how we're going to deliver this combat to you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't focus on it. Just have fun with the combat kind of situation. But that's good. I mean, I think it means that some devs could play Rage 2 and really learn from what made that combat feel so good, right? So maybe we can get some other games feeling as good as that, combat-wise.
For sure. Yep. A lot of people thought that there was like it was going to be like kind of a looter, because the way they looked initially on like some of those promo, it kind of looked like it might have been a shooter. Definitely wasn't. It's more in line of the Doom style, where once you unlock that weapon, you then have access to it and then start down the upgrade paths and all that. So I'd say if you're a fan of Doom and want some quick combat that's crazy, it's a pickup. But if you're going to be disappointed with only, say, like 8 story missions, then wait till sale.
Yeah. Cool. Good stuff.
Yeah.
So the Division 2's raid has dropped. This is something that people have been really looking forward to. A lot of people wanted the Division 1 to have raids in it. They had incursions, which were kind of raid light, I guess. But we finally got a raid in the Division. I haven't actually played this, but I watched some footage of it, and boy, it looks really hard.
It looks really hard. I mean,
it is tough.
Console finally finished it. 36 hours.
That's nuts.
To finish the raid.
So,
the actual time that they were 36 hours.
So PC, when did PC finish it from when it launched?
About
5 hours.
So PC launches
5.
and console at the same time. PC gets it done in 5 hours, and console players took 36 hours. Why is this?
Yeah. It is so, I mean, obviously on console, there's a lot of like there's a lot of very quick things you can do on PC, you know, macros and fast turning, and the way you can react to things is obviously a lot faster. So and as we'll kind of get onto in a minute, like when it comes to some of the encounters, you need to have that reaction. But I think ultimately it's because the raid was tuned so high, and like bear in mind, like, you know, we're all familiar with raids, we're all familiar with, you know, we all like that kind of difficult end game content, and I'm no stranger to, like, you know, sitting for hours and hours into raids. I mean, we've all done it with Destiny raids, right? But the difference with the Division one, or at least from the way I see it, is that it's tuned for like the top 0.01%. It is, because you know how like because the one thing the Division's always had, right? It's always been a game where you can do a ton of great customization, but there's so many things. You know, in some games, it's like, all right, cool, you got to get the good weapon with like a decent roll, and then you got to have like, you know, hit the gear score. Whereas in Division, you know, you got to hit the gear score. Then you've got gear mods, you got weapon mods, you got weapon rolls, you got gear rolls. Like, there's so much min maxing you can do that like you can have 2 people at gear score 500, and it might as well be gear score 500 and gear score 600 because it's that different. Like I mean, we went in with like, you know, I mean, I play Division a lot, but I didn't necessarily play it as much as, say, the team that did well first. And it's night and day looking at our footage side by side. Like, it would take me 3 magazines to kill a trash mob, and they would kill it in 1. They'd just be like, bam, dead. Whereas I'm sitting there like fighting like he's the boss.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw some people talking about how they spent, you know, X amount of insane hours creating this build, and they have this build created, but it's actually kind of useless in the raid because it's so focused on DPS. So if you created another build that was very in-depth and worked very well, it just didn't work in the raid because you needed that really heavy DPS
Interesting.
build.
So what I heard was that with PC players, because of mouse and keyboard, you could kind of compensate for some of the issues with fast aiming that was requiring high DPS in the raid. So that was one of the differences between the PC clear versus console clear. On console, it's just you are inhibited on being able to correct for aim mishaps with DPS, and because it's so focused on DPS, the raid, that's why the console player base had a tough time clearing it faster.
Yeah,
that adds up to me. I play that game on both keyboard and mouse and on a controller. Like, when I'm sitting at my desk, I'll play on keyboard and mouse, but I'll also play it on that TV behind me, and I'll just put my feet up and play on a controller and just kind of wander around the world. But it's kind of stark, the difference between how good my aim is on the controller versus the mouse, because the recoil it's much harder to compensate for the recoil in that game specifically. Yeah. With that controller in my hand, the guns have a lot of kick, and especially at distance. which you want to be at, because the game is, difficult. You do die quickly in that game.
Yeah.
It can be hard to put that DPS down with a controller.
Yeah. So two things. One is I'm a little disappointed that it's so DPS focused. I mean, it makes sense for them trying to make like an upper echelon, top tier type of experience. So I get that. But the fact, like you guys are talking about, there's so many builds in the game, but essentially if you don't go in there with a DPS focused build, you're going to struggle. Right?
That's disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's a because the thing is there are some great aspects to it, but I feel like they are heavily overshadowed with that. That one of the things that when going into the raid or like prior to the raid, I was like, the one thing that I hope they don't do that they have typically always done in Division is that in order to create difficulty, they do artificial difficulty. They just throw in a ton of difficult enemies and then they just throw them at you, and that's invariably where you lose. And it's kind of a shame because it's one of the things that, like incursions, for example, I know they were never raids, but one of the things that incursions never really had, but they never really had like hefty mechanics. There was invariably one thing you had to do, but one of the things that I remember speaking to the developers saying that I really want to see mechanics worked into Division raids, because and while it's a lot easier to kind of pull something off crazy and say like a Destiny raid, because you can say, oh, this alien that's got two heads is going to come out of a wall and then you have to shoot his head. Whereas in a Clancy universe, it has to be more realistic. But it's kind of a shame because they work some mechanics into it, but the way that they structured it, I mean, to kind of sort of paint a picture for anyone like that maybe is watching that didn't even do it. So like, let's take the first encounter. First encounter, you're in a room, right? And then there are 4 batteries that come out of the ground. And if any enemy, trash mob or boss stand in the vicinity of these batteries, they're immune, which already is kind of an annoying mechanic. But then you can take down the batteries using 2 miniguns. So you can shoot them down. And once you've taken them down, provided you stay on top of it, there's consoles in the middle of the room. You can keep them down. So that's one thing you can stay on top of. Then the boss comes in, and the boss is like a big, heavy guy. He's got a backpack, and he's got a tiny window on his chest, and he has a healing mechanic. Now, this is an annoying thing.
Interesting.
So you can't damage the boss until you drop him to his knees. You can only drop him to his knees when you shoot him with the minigun, and then the damage window is so incredibly small where, like, if, for example, you're reloading your gun, by the time you reloaded, he's got back up. So you've lost your damage window. Yeah. Then he's got, bear in mind, he's a very big armored guy who's got a tiny window on his chest.
He's a chungus.
Which then it glows orange. Basically is. Yeah, basically, right? Yeah. And he's got like a tiny window on his chest. So when it goes orange, it says like he's about to start healing. So, but also for a massive guy, he runs like a flipping sprinter. So he sprints halfway across the room. You have to shoot this chest window to stop him from healing. And if you don't, he basically heals all the damage you've just done.
So in that very tiny window that you have.
Yeah, in that tiny window. And then that's exacerbated by the fact that there's a ton of ads that come in. And one of the things that kind of maybe I'm mistaken because it was kind of hectic. But one of the things I've always appreciated about Destiny raids, they present a challenge, but they also have structured windows. It's like, all right, this is ad phase. Deal with the ads. We're then going to move to boss DPS phase. We're then going to move to this mechanic. Whereas this was very much like, yo, the boss is moving. You got to stop him from healing. Oh, these enemies are coming in. Oh, the batteries are coming back up. Like, what the hell are we doing? And it also takes me 3 magazines to kill something. Wow. It's like, whew. So we got to the point where for us, I mean, I've spent hours and hours in Destiny raids, like going back to back, because I don't mind if I know that I'm losing because we're just learning mechanics and you're failing because you're like, oh, we didn't jump on that platform in time, but we know to do that next time. That I will spend hours doing. But we got to the point where the only way we would ever have got through that first encounter is if we had a flawless run. Like we didn't miss a single shot. We got every single time. We didn't let him heal once. And we're like, you know what? There's not even any point. We've got a fully squadded team who are, we're all competent players, but it just, and I feel like the problem with that is it just overshadowed it, because if you just knocked it down just a little bit, right, made it so that it wasn't quite so, it's still challenging and you still had to manage those mechanics, but the enemies weren't quite so hard to take down, I feel like that would be a good balance, because then you would be able to appreciate the mechanics a little bit more. But right now it's just onslaught after onslaught, and it's just
sounds punishing.
It's basically like if you don't have the damage for those ads coming out, you have to play phenomenally to actually finish it.
Exactly.
I heard some complaints too that there was a game update that actually messed with a lot of people's builds, like right before the raid came out too.
Yeah, I think they normalized some of them because there was an ability to, or like a way you could roll slightly above the gear score before, and I think they normalized a lot of that, so some people's stats got a bit squashed. So yeah, and the thing is, as well, it's kind of a shame because not only do you have this, but then also the raid itself already came out like a month after World Tier 5, so already it was later than people have wanted. So people's interest has started to wane already, and then you're presented with a situation where they were like, by the way, there's no matchmaking, which it sounded like they promised before. So you're now in a weird situation where it's like you've got to get 8 finally min-maxed teammates that can all communicate to get through this super tough encounter, the chances of anyone doing that is just like...
It is very slim, especially when you consider that there were people that made, they spent a lot of time in the Division and they made a build, but they didn't focus on DPS, and they are essentially useless.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
And now they're like, oh, I got to go grind for another, 50 hours or however much to get this perfect DPS build to go try again.
That's rough. Yeah.
It is rough.
So what do you get if you complete the raid? Like what's the carrot?
There are three new gear sets that are in the raid, which have like raid focused perks, and they sound quite interesting. There is that unfortunate position again where like the gear sets, anything that isn't just like raw damage increase, a lot of people overlook them, but they're kind of these semi-interesting gear sets. So I guess if you have them, it'll make raid completion slightly easier. And there is also an exotic weapon. I think it's an exotic assault rifle. I think it's semi-decent, but it's one of those weird things where it's like, why are you going to put yourself through it? Because I don't think you really need that stuff, and there's nothing for you to do after that to use that stuff. So it's like...
That's a similar problem Destiny's always had, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The conundrum right there.
That's cool that there's 3 gear sets though.
Yeah.
So you can
the
only
loot
get those.
seems interesting.
You can only get those from the raid. Those 3 gear sets.
Yeah, because they'll be tied to projects which you can then unlock and craft when you're back, but then you get the parts from the raid, I believe. So yeah, and I mean it's the first time they've done gear sets like this, because they've got each gear set has the way obviously the way that gear sets normally work is you have your 3-piece, 4-piece, 5 and 6-piece set bonuses, but on these ones specifically, the 5 and 6-piece set bonuses are also tied to specializations. So there'll be like one for the survivalist, one for the sharpshooter, one for the demolitionist, which is cool. So conceptually they're interesting. But again, unfortunately, when you look at, because gear set pieces also don't always come with the roles that you'll get on high end pieces. Right. So a lot of people that will look at these and be like, well, I just need a DPS build for the raid. They might not even consider using these. So yeah, it's that weird sort of balance point. And it is a shame, because like I feel they've learned a lot from the stuff they kind of did in Division 1. I feel like they've put a lot of effort into this, but I do think that it's gonna, and it's that difficult factor, because now people have completed it. Like if they tune it down and people afterwards are like, well, no, I completed the raid, and everyone will be like, well, you've done it now, it's easier. But I feel like they're gonna have to do something like that, because I mean, to this day, I think I can probably still count on one hand how many teams have completed it, which is crazy.
Yeah. I think it's a shame to create something where it seems pretty cool. From what I was watching, the encounters seemed pretty interesting. Of course, it's not really my thing having real world stuff. I like fantastical things, so it's a little less interesting for me to watch. But watching it seemed like they had definitely put a lot of work into this, and the mechanics seemed pretty cool and all of that. But this is a tiny percent of the population that are going to be able to play it. If you have dedicated Division players who just happen to put time into the wrong build, they can't play it, and they've been playing. Even if you played every single day, you have to go make another build.
That's really rough.
Do it.
And again, I think that was one of my main concerns about this when it was coming out, is that I was hoping that they were going to have a really good balance in there for builds. So so you have like maybe one DPS on each one of those teams. That's the focus DPS. And you have like a couple supports and all that. Like I was hoping that was going to be the case. And it seems like they weren't able to figure out how to balance that. So it made it all DPS focused.
Yeah. It might be that they looked at their mechanics and they were like, well, maybe these aren't like complicated enough. So we need to just like, put in, again, it's that kind of artificial difficulty thing. But I feel like there's a couple of ways, if they didn't want to tune it down too much, there's a couple of things they could have done. Like it's almost, for example, just the first encounter, like if you just took the healing mechanic out, that's almost like a heroic mechanic. That's kind of what you expect is like a hard mode version. That encounter in itself, there's still quite a few things to juggle. It's not hugely complex. It's not one of those kind of crazy like head scratching puzzles you spend ages solving like in a Destiny raid, but there's enough things to keep on top of that if you didn't have to worry about healing, then at least you can gradually chip down the boss. Because the other thing that I forgot to mention is that obviously the boss also, after X amount of cycles, the boss will destroy a minigun.
Yeah, he destroys a minigun.
If he destroys both of them, then that's also a wipe mechanic.
That's basically the rage mechanic.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's pretty tough. But yeah, and this thing, like I've never been, I'm no stranger to difficult content, and obviously I'm perfectly happy to accept that sometimes that things are too hard. But this is one of those ones where I'm like, no, this is tuned a little bit too high, because if it was one of those ones where, say, like on I don't know, Last Wish, when the first day it came out, and I was like, you know what, I guess
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh. Did we lose Eric's?
I think we might have.
Think we might have lost
Technical difficulties.
our friend.
Yeah. And our entire team is going to have to grind like that as well.
Hold on,
Then-
Eric's. If you can,
sorry.
back up 1 minute because there was some strange lag that happened, and we didn't hear.
Oh no!
We didn't hear about a minute.
We didn't lose you though, thank God.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Hey,
I'm
I'm
happy
still
about
here.
that.
Well, where? I just seen it on the stream. I'm pulling a really interesting face. Where was it? Where was I at? What was I on?
Talking about difficulty and the gear sets. And
Oh yeah. So and that's the difference with when it comes to something like with Destiny, where if I kind of got to that point where I was like, my either we just can't get over this mechanic or something like that. You come back the next day and you think, all right, I can do this. Whereas with Division, I just know that in order to get this, every single one of us would literally have to finally min max. It just doesn't really seem to be like worth it, and that extent, right? So I think they need to. I mean, yeah, it is true that the exotic weapon is good, but even if it is good, it's just like, do I really want to go through all of this to get that one weapon? That maybe when they release the new expansion, maybe they'll nerf that weapon.
Oh
so,
boy!
So who knows, right?
Yeah.
So
I definitely see why they didn't include
rough.
matchmaking if it's going to be this difficult, because that would be extremely frustrating.
Well, I think
to have
that's the
people
other
who
thing.
don't even have mics on your team.
So-
and stuff
For
like
sure.
that.
I totally understand why they don't have it, but I think that's another thing that kind of put a sour taste in people's mouth when it came to the raid releasing. It was delayed, and then they announced it with hardly any time to prepare for it. They had a patch right before the raid, so people couldn't even get into their character to get their builds ready before the raid launched. And then they're like, oh, there's no matchmaking, even though we said every single activity in Division will have matchmaking.
Yeah, that's really weird, honestly. Also, is there going to be a heroic version of this raid, or is this raid like that's where it's at? Anybody know?
I'm not too sure. I mean, they haven't said anything on that yet, but I mean, in like incursions in the past had different difficulties, but this is obviously a slightly different kind of thing. So yeah, no news on that right now.
Maybe they would do a thing where they would actually knock a bunch of stuff down into like a light version and then put matchmaking. So instead of adding heroic later on, maybe they're launching with the hardest difficulty and then adding a light version for people to be able to matchmake into that wouldn't have gear sets
might be the
dropping.
play.
So you learn the mechanics, but don't get punished so hard from not having like a completely maxed out DPS build.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Raids aren't easy.
No,
I think we've been spoiled. The Destiny community's been spoiled by some really fantastic raids, and other games that kind of try to compete with Destiny. It's one of the things that they have always been missing, and it's a tough thing. Definitely,
Space aliens, magic dragons.
Yeah. Right.
It helps.
You guys want to talk about the E3 leaks a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
So this was leaked on NeoGAF. So we don't know, right? Like, it seems pretty legit, but we don't know. It's all
some discrepancy.
Yeah, I mean, there's always that pre-E3 kind of like leak of the whole conference thing, right? So
right.
pinch of salt, but still.
Yeah.
It's worth mentioning, but just don't take it as absolute fact.
Grain of salt.
Right.
No.
So the leak comes in kind of different stages. This is the stuff that the leaker was really confident about, and then the stuff probably is going to happen, right? So the first group of stuff includes Halo Infinite, a new trailer with a holiday 2020 release date.
Yeah,
to be expected.
Push.
I can see that happening. Yeah, I can see that happening anyway, because I can see Halo Infinite being like a launch title for the next Xbox anyway, which they say
For
might be
sure.
2020.
Yeah.
For sure.
So,
Yeah. Gears 5, a full gameplay reveal with a September release date, so that'd be coming out this year.
Wow, September.
More September.
yeah, I can see that happening. Yeah.
Yeah, right. More September.
September's
September's
getting
going to be busy.
Oh no.
Gears Tactics, a new trailer with a release date. Is this the mobile phone game?
Gears Tactics.
Oh, that's the one no
coming to
one wants.
Xbox?
That's the get out of here one. That's the one they showed during the conference. Like last year was the year of bait and switch. They showed us 3 games where it was like, and then they were like, "This is not what you want." But yeah,
Ori and the Will of the Wisps, a new trailer with a release date. No day on that though. We don't know if that's going to be 2020 or 2019.
I'm actually really excited about this next one.
Bleeding Edge, a new IP from Ninja Theory, will be cross-gen sci-fi game.
Whoa,
Dude.
cool.
Ninja Theory?
Ooh.
Ninja
What
Theory?
did, what did Ninja Theory
they
do
always
again?
do good stuff, right?
What did Ninja Theory?
Hello Sacrifice.
But they also worked on what was that? What was the one
Hellblade.
with the monkey dude in the like kind of
Cinema
post-apocalyptic city?
Oh, right.
with,
What was that?
What was that? That was really cool as well. No, I can't remember the name. But yeah, it was
Google
really
will
good.
help us out.
Google's the answer. Cinema Sacrifice was incredible. That game was.
If you like, that was incredible.
That was a journey.
And for it to say, it says cross-gen sci-fi game. I'm really excited to see what they can do because they created a phenomenal game with Hellblade.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. In a way that I haven't even really experienced the game before.
Hellblade was the type of game
incredible.
where you have a tough time finding things like cinema and other forms of media that can compete with the experience that it gave you. It was a very
It changed my outlook on mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Full stop.
Yeah.
You know, it really did.
Yeah.
Other games they worked on were Odyssey to the West, DMC, Devil May Cry, and Heavenly Sword. Heavenly Sword, wasn't that like a PlayStation 3 launch game? That was actually a cool game.
And
they got bad
Odyssey
reviews, but I liked it anyway.
Yeah, Odyssey to the West was the one I was thinking of. The Enslaved. That was such a good game.
Nice.
They're a good studio, man. I'm excited.
Oh, they are. They're great.
That's exciting.
Yeah, they are fantastic.
Yeah, a sci-fi game from them. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Next up is The Outer Worlds, a new trailer and a release date. I'm really looking forward to this game. Like, I hope this is coming out in 2019. I can't wait to see a new trailer.
This is from the Fallout developers, right?
This is from the guys who made Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, like the real old ones that were
OGs.
like 2D top down. Yeah, and then they also made Fallout 3 New Vegas.
Okay, cool. So they branched off, started their own thing. Is it a separate company from Bethesda?
Yeah, it's called something else now. They got bought by Microsoft, but they were already making this game when they got bought by Microsoft.
For people that don't know, what kind of game is The Outer Worlds?
Outer Worlds is what it looks like so far is kind of like a Fallout 3-ish type of game, but with smaller areas. It's not going to be this like big open world game. It's going to be very story focused, very decision focused, a lot of character development, and you're going to be able to explore like a galaxy by going to like. From what I understand, it's going to be places that are similar in scope to like a Destiny environment, but it's going to be more about story. You'll go out and you'll find stuff like you would on a patrol in Destiny, but it's it's going to have that Fallout feel where you're making decisions.
I'd play that game.
Fallout in space.
Fallout in space, yeah.
Fallout in space, I think is a good way of putting
Fallout
it.
space magic.
I think it's
obviously
important for expectations. It's not going to be like an open world game like the recent Fallout games have been.
Got it.
Okay.
Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay trailer and release window reveal.
Ooh.
I am so excited to finally, even if it's a release window, I'm happy.
September.
Oh no.
September 2019.
If that comes out in September, full stop, that's what I'm doing.
Really?
I'm gonna lose my mind. I don't know what I'm gonna do. At that point, I'd be scared.
CD Projekt Red to me has like carte blanche on my time. Like whenever they release this game, I'm just going to play it. Like The Witcher 3 blew me away on such a crazy level that I just cannot, I'm salivating waiting for the next thing, right? Age of Empires 4 gameplay reveal 2020 release date.
Dude, I love Age of Empires.
I want that.
Is this like a new Age of Empires? Like a modern?
Yeah, 4.
Age of Empires 4. Yeah.
Wow. Not even a reboot.
I think we need some Tefty city building.
Dude, I love those games. I love the Age of Empires. I will absolutely play Age of Empires.
I love Age of Empires.
Like RTSs seem to be that sort of genre that just have no one's really doing anything these days. I mean, it's I love that genre, but there've been a few indie versions, but there haven't been any yet. So I'd be fully down for that.
They Are Billions is one of them.
I'm so excited.
Kind of recent.
I remember as a kid, my computer kept crashing sometimes when I was quite young, when I was playing Age of Empires. So I never could really just play the game, just sit there and just play for hours. It kept crashing. But yeah, Age of Empires has a special place in my heart. I love it.
I would play, we do like a LAN thing, get laptops together and like just build up crazy armies and then go head to head after like 30 minutes of farming and building, or an hour or something. It was great.
Oh, you make like a pack. Nobody can attack anybody until like an hour.
Until we've had massive armies.
I was always the scumbag who would try and rush right at the very beginning.
Nice.
I'm also that scumbag.
Yep.
Yeah, those games are great. I'm excited about a new Age of Empires. It'll be fun. But I will say, I would love to see an actual Warcraft RTS.
Oh yeah,
I like
Warcraft 4.
Yeah, Warcraft 1, 2, and 3. Those were fun games. I want to see. Yeah, I want to see the evolution.
They're remaking Warcraft 3, right?
Oh, they are, aren't they?
Isn't Blizzard working on that? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I forgot about that actually. Yeah, but it's been so long. I'm like, man, remember when Warcraft was an RTS and not a MMO?
Yeah. Next up, a Fable reboot. So Fable for the Xbox and Xbox 3. Did it come out 360? Was Fable 2 on the Xbox OG?
I think so.
Was it on 360?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it was an OG.
Sorry, go ahead.
So they're teasing the next gen Fable game. So this will be on the next Xbox. But the game itself is exclusive to, the next Xbox for a likely release in 2021.
Because wasn't there a rumor going around that, because obviously Lionhead aren't a thing anymore, wasn't there a rumor going around at one point that Playground, the ones that make Forza, were apparently picking up a Fable thing? So that could be really interesting, because Playground are such a great studio as well. Like they have done, I mean, although they've been known for like Forza Horizon, they're like such a great studio.
Yeah, Forza is a very impressive game.
It is, yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, I'd be excited. I liked the first two games. I don't think I played the third one. And then I was watching like the development. They had that kind of like Fable, was it called Fable Champions or something? At one point that was getting shown a little bit, but it looked like it was like a multiplayer only thing, and it didn't really fit.
They lost direction with that, because that was their sort of like service one. They did the kind of rolling beta thing, and then they tried to peddle a load of microtransactions on people, and it didn't go down very well. And it was like, that was unfortunate, because like Lionhead were one of the British studios, and they sad to see they went. But yeah, but Fable, I love Fable. Yeah, I mean, I never played 1, but I played 2 and 3, so I'd be down for.
Those games were just dripping with personality and kind of the depth of the world and the lore, and like you just like walk up to random people and they had like real interesting stories to like just a random NPC. It was
I love games where you can just walk up to a random person and you're like, this is actually really interesting, instead of feeling like you have to talk to them and it's like, this is sort of a drag. Just coming across those stories that are so interesting and really make the world feel alive.
That's what Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas had that Fallout 4 never had for me. Yeah. And it's really the difference between Fallout 4 and the previous two games was that I never felt like there was anything interesting that anybody had to say. You know, like it just didn't feel
like when a world invites you into those stories as opposed to like forcing discovery.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Sea of Thieves is getting new content.
That game's going to end up being
I still love that game.
Crazy good.
Yeah.
We should get together for a play date on that. That game would be fun.
We really should.
That'd be awesome.
Fun not to have hijinks in.
Yeah. I'm glad it's getting some more traction now as well, because when it first came out, it wasn't, I was looking forward to it, but there wasn't kind of a great deal there. So I'm happy to see that they've been able to kind of breathe life back into it. So yeah.
And the community that's still playing that game is really passionate about it. Like they're having a good time. There's kind of there's this weird dispute between people who like see themselves as merchants. Like they don't want to play any PvP stuff. Yeah. And then the pirates.
Like merchants versus pirates. That's going to be the new content. They're going to real dial in on it. You can select your professions. Like I'm a merchant. I'm a pirate.
That wouldn't be a bad idea, actually. That'd be kind of cool. But it is funny to see kind of like people complaining about pirates and Sea of Thieves.
It's really funny.
It's not even called Sea of Pirates. It's Sea of Thieves. Thieving.
Right? Yeah.
True.
You're not a noble pirate. You're a thief.
Battletoads is going to get a gameplay reveal and release date.
That's funny.
Okay.
Cool.
I have no idea what a modern day Battletoads look like.
Exactly.
Like, what is this going to be? Like, is it going to be like a beat 'em up, or is it going to be like a side scroller? Like what is modern day Battletoads?
It's an MMO.
It's an MMO, yeah.
It's a looter shooter.
Looter shooter, yeah.
Anytime type of game they make this, I'm interested in seeing though, because I like the Battletoads whimsy, you know, like kind of that knockoff Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles vibe, but with a little bit like, yeah, we know we're a knockoff and we're gonna embrace it.
Yeah.
Project xCloud info dump.
Okay.
What is that?
I don't know what this is, guys. What's Project xCloud? Do I need to Google this?
xCloud is their service for basically having access to the Xbox service on any platform anywhere. So this would mean you could play Xbox games on your phone, on your tablet, on your PC, in theory on your Switch if you could have access to a service for that. So xCloud is basically their Skynet. Like, you can play us everywhere.
Like a Google Stadia competitor, or like an Nvidia, what is their service called? Nvidia Shield?
Yeah, essentially that, yeah.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Because they spoke last year about like cloud stuff, but then we kind of, you know, there's still that question of whether it would still hold up right now, given people's internet connections and stuff. But it'd be interesting to see. I mean, the industry's clearly going that way, so I feel like it might be a couple more years before it's really established. But they need to roll it out at some point, right? So,
yeah. Do you think it's kind of? Do you think it's going to be like the VR stuff, where you have a big rollout of a bunch of VR and trying to get people to adopt the technology? Then it just is kind of like, well, there's a section that's into that, but most people still kind of want their games on their hard drive.
I feel like they'd have to do that soft rollout thing where like it would like almost go like alongside stuff where it'd be like, oh, you know, the people that have kind of got set up, they're like, oh, for convenience, I'm going to grab this on the cloud, versus like the people that want to buy it physically. And then when they live in parallel for a while, they might start to slowly phase things out and be like, hey, it's much easier to get things on xCloud, and then people will eventually switch over. Kind of like the swap to 4K, right? It took a little while before people still aren't fully there.
Yeah. I mean, I guess
I can see it being really good for supplementary kind of gameplay, where I play Destiny mainly on my Xbox on a big TV, but sometimes I'm at the DMV and I wouldn't mind grinding, you know, some bounties, you know, on patrol, you know, on my phone while I'm sitting at the DMV.
Maybe do a little butt stomping with a little force push on Rage 2, you know?
Right, you know, so it's not like main gameplay avenue, but, you know, while I got a little extra time, instead of playing some stupid Candy Crush game, I can play the game that I'm playing. It reminds me of remember the Sega Dreamcast had that little VMU thing with the screen on it?
Oh, yeah.
And you could there's one game, Skies of Arcadia, where you could take the VMU out and play a little game on it that would actually gain you experience for when you were actually playing the real game. And it was a really cool idea that never really got explored, like past that.
Yeah.
But I could see doing something like that. The next gen Xbox baseline of specs. Oh, that'll be interesting.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
You think they'll go like full like nuclear power reactor on this thing, or do you think they'll be parity with PS4? Or
no, I think
they want to get beat by PS4 again.
Exactly.
I think they'll go above. I mean, because even now Xbox One X is still the most powerful, right? Because they like being able to say we've got the most powerful console. So I don't think they'll in any way. And that kind of partly links in with that announcement this week where Sony and Microsoft are working together, right? Because obviously Sony are lending the Microsoft lending the Azure services to Sony. Meanwhile, they're in return getting some hardware tech from Sony. So they clearly want to, you know, pile everything into the machine.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I expect it to be big, and if it's not, I'm going to be concerned for the next generation.
Listed under high chance of happening is MechAssault. I haven't seen a MechAssault game in a very long time.
Huh?
Was MechAssault 2 the first Xbox Live game?
Was it?
Was that?
I think it might have been for the original Xbox, right?
Was that the one with the crazy controller, or am I thinking of a different game?
No, that was... Oh, what was that?
Oh, Steel Battalion.
Steel Battalion, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I always wanted that controller.
Yeah,
it was like $200 though.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
and super impractical. Like, it just takes up the half of your desk. You're like, oh, I'm gonna use this for one game.
Yeah, exactly. But that game always seemed cool. Like, if you died, if your mech blew up, there was like an eject button that you had to hit on that big And if you didn't hit it, you just lost your game save. Like, you're dead.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I love it.
So I actually liked that MechAssault game. I think it was MechAssault 2. That was the first Xbox Live game. And I don't remember seeing another MechAssault since then, but it was a pretty fun game. It was more arcadey than Mech Warrior, which is in the same universe. And I think there's a new Mech Warrior coming out too relatively soon. probably for PC. So that could be interesting. A new Mech Assault game. Forza Motorsports teased for next gen Forza.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind
Do you
of.
guys play Forza? Do you guys play racing games at all?
Not really.
No.
I used to be like heavily into them, but like with every single, I feel like that the era of sort of like racing sims is dying down a little. I mean, there's obviously still an audience for it, but I find it personally quite hard to get excited about like a new racing sim every year when it's like, oh, they've just added a few more cars in, but you're still racing around the same tracks, or there's some new tracks. So like for me, it's not super exciting, but they do have that cadence. They have like Forza Horizon, then Forza, and then this what they are. So I think that's kind of just Microsoft. It's one of their IPs they keep peddling. So they're
I feel like it's the sports market. Like there's a dedicated baked in audience that absolutely loves those games that have them in their gaming routine and expect a new version that comes out with refreshes the car models and all that. And because I never played Madden, but I know it becomes #1 most sold game in August or September, like every year.
True.
Yeah. I used to play the Gran Turismo series pretty religiously for like a lot of hours, but like over time, like, I just got bored with it, right? It was like Gran Turismo 1, Gran Turismo 2. All right, Gran Turismo 3, it's just more of the same.
Yeah.
But when I got into VR, I started getting back into racing games because the immersion of being sitting in the vehicle and like being able to like look around and see the interior of a vehicle like you're actually in there really added to like the immersion of driving this thing. And then like
experiencing Ferrari Fridays.
Yeah, soon. Like I've been looking at like Thrustmaster wheels to mount to my desk so I can like kind of take that next step, because it's a weird disconnect having a controller in your hand,
right?
But like seeing your hands do this, And I'm kind of hoping that like Forza is really good. I played Forza Horizon, the most recent one, quite a bit, and I like it, but it's not as much fun as playing in VR. And I'm kind of hoping that Microsoft jumps into the VR kind of market for the Xbox soon. There was a long time ago rumors that they were going to pair with Oculus, but that never really came to fruition. A new Capcom game rumored to be Resident Evil 3 remake, or maybe even a new Dino Crisis game.
Ooh, that would be amazing.
For me personally, Resident Evil 3 remake sounds incredible because Resident Evil 2 was just beyond expectation.
Resident Evil 3 was actually my favorite in the
Was
series.
that Nemesis? Was Resident Evil 3 Nemesis?
Yeah.
So it's weird because they kind of brought Nemesis into Resident Evil 2, right? That idea of the Nemesis kind of following you around with Mr. X, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting if they do. I mean, Capcom kind of knocking it out of the park every pitch.
They've been killing it
right now.
Honestly,
they have been killing it.
Absolutely killing it.
Dino Crisis would also be fantastic. That would be super exciting.
Like back in the late 90s, Capcom was one of those companies where whatever they put out, I would just buy because everything they made was fantastic.
Yeah.
And they're kind of getting back to that to me. It's like whatever you guys make, I will play because Devil May Cry is awesome. Monster Hunter is awesome. Resident Evil is awesome. I think the last stumbling point they had was probably Street Fighter V. But by many accounts, they've really put a lot of work into that, and it's much better than what it released at.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then they just say more Japanese dev games.
Cool.
Fair. That would be really cool. I mean, that's the one thing they are massively lacking, right? So if they can actually put a bigger focus on that, because that's Xbox is basically might as well not exist in Japan. So if they can do that, that'd be cool.
It'll be really
Lost
good
on the
for them.
please.
Yeah.
The third category in the leak are announcements that have a small chance of happening. A next-gen Rare game.
I do
Does
like
that even
Rare
get
games.
anybody excited anymore?
I mean,
it's been a while.
It's been a while, but I always just feel like it's almost like in a weird kind of way of giving. It's just almost like, well, if this studio is still here next generation, they're going to make a game. It's like, well, that's kind of what their job is.
Right.
So I feel like that's I could be like, my prediction is a next generation Ninja Theory game. But yeah. I mean, but I'd like to sort of see what they can do. Like Rare are always good at coming up with those wacky things, and they
did Sea of Thieves, right?
Yeah. So if they can, or if they just want to go and remake Banjo, no, not Banjo. If they want to remake Donkey Kong 64 for me, and just like, I'll be happy with
4K Donkey Kong.
That would be pretty awesome. Yep.
I would like to see another Conker's Bad Fur Day.
That would be amazing.
Well, speaking of
lost the
Rare.
thing. Where'd it go? There it is. Speaking of Rare,
Perfect Dark Reboot is next on the list. Reportedly in development, with Rare supervising. It's Delala Studios. Hopefully, I said that right.
Interesting.
What have they done?
so Perfect Dark was the game that I played because they couldn't make GoldenEye anymore because they lost the license.
Yeah.
Perfect Dark was so good.
They used it. It was a very good game. Yeah. Let's.
Does anyone remember the Far Sight in the multiplayer game? The one with the X-ray gun that could see through all the walls and shoot through all the walls.
I do remember.
So when you're playing multiplayer, it's like, bam! It was brilliant.
Actual wall hacks.
Yes.
Did you guys like the one that came out for the? Was it the Nintendo 64 or the one that came out for the Xbox 360?
Oh, 64 is the one. The three. It wasn't the 361 a bit like.
Yeah, I thought so. It was a launch game, I think, for the 360. It was,
Okay, so it looks like this studio, who would be potentially working on Perfect Dark, makes Battletoads. That's probably the one that you guys know. They also did Overruled, which is a multiplayer brawler game, and Nothing to Fear, which is currently in production. Trap setting, scare creating, object mimicking, puzzle adventure. So that seems very different to Perfect Dark.
It does, yeah.
Perfect Dark is it's a first person shooter that took definitely a lot of inspiration from GoldenEye.
Cool.
Then they said Xbox Game Studio announcement acquisition. So they're gonna announce the purchase of IO Interactive, Asobo, and Relic Entertainment.
Okay.
Interesting.
Which is they need, right? To compete with Sony, I feel like blow for blow, they need more exclusives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've been on this path of getting back to where they had studios because they let a bunch of studios go pre this generation. And now, they realized that was obviously a mistake. So,
Yeah,
so that's what you can expect from Microsoft at E3.
Supposedly.
Rumors. Yeah.
Apparently.
It's got me excited. I'm definitely excited to see what comes out of E3.
Yeah, this is looking interesting. You know, some of the top category, you've got Halo, Gears, Ori, that new sci-fi game from Ninja Theory, Cyberpunk, Age of Empires. There's a lot in that list that is very exciting for me.
I'd say for me, Cyberpunk and Halo are the two games that I'm really excited to see.
Yeah, I'd say I think from that I'd say like whatever Ninja Theory is working on, and also like whatever falls into that Japanese category. Because I remember like what was it? Was it last year's E3 or the year before? Last year they showed off Jump Force. The year before they showed off Dragon Ball Fighters. Like those ones to me, they often kind of come out the unexpected ones, and they're like yo, I need these ones.
That's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really
cool. Next up, we want to talk about the Tfue. You guys hear Tfue? Am I saying that right? Tfue?
Yes.
I'm so fucking old, guys.
That Tfue gamer.
That Tfue.
Tfue.
Yeah, the T is silent.
Kids in their video games. He's suing. He's a 21-year-old gamer who's suing FaZe Clan for what he says is a limited contract or a contract that is in violation of California law. He claims that they take 80% of his revenue when he's streaming and for advertisements that they provide for him.
Sponsorship deals,
right. And he's taking them to court. He wants
taking out the big guns.
So it looks like because he's with FaZe, they get these opportunities for him and these sponsorships and stuff, and he's not able to pursue those alone. So he can't go out and get his own sponsorships and brand deals. Those all have to go through FaZe, and they're taking 80% of that.
Yeah, and apparently they'll shut down certain things for him because they will be in conflict with some of their other sponsorship deals that they're doing with other people. So it's
right.
Yeah. What's interesting about this is he's essentially one of the biggest Fortnite players, so very very high visibility, and he's taking he's trying to get out of this contract that he signed. I mean, on one hand, he signed a bad contract, but on the other hand, it seems like there could be some shady business going on with Faze. No, it's technically unconfirmed right now because they haven't had their side of it revealed, but it's one of those things where it's like, well, yeah, I'm not surprised if there's some shady business going on with how they're dealing with certain things there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some other allegations as well that they signed like an 11-year-old gamer and pressured the family to lie about his age, that there was underage drinking involved. Like, so, like you said, they haven't kind of told their side of the story. FaZe Banks was on Twitter today saying that the first thing I'd like to say is we do not have and never have taken 80% of anyone's prize money. But you'll notice in like the lawsuit doesn't actually talk about prize money. It talks about the revenue from advertisers. So,
well, his like,
it'll be interesting to see
Twitch subs, sponsorships, all that. I mean, I think he's
YouTube revenue.
He's had like 60,000 Twitch subs, something like that. I mean, if you do the math, that's a lot of money every month.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be interesting to watch this one. There has been a long history of very, very toxic creator contracts, right? Going back to like the Machinima days where, you'd sign a contract so that you could, this is before YouTube allowed anybody to monetize their channel. You used to have to sign up with a, help me out with the name of these things. The
networks.
Multi-network thing.
Yeah.
The MCN, you'd have to sign a deal with these networks, and that would allow you to monetize your channel. You couldn't do it on your own. But they would take a revenue split with you. And usually it was pretty high, especially in the early days. And in some cases, they would also make you sign over your channel. Like, so they owned your channel and whatever content you made. And there were a lot of disputes early on where people wanted to get out of these contracts, but they were legally binding contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They fell by the wayside when they kind of got exposed to light, and hopefully this kind of practice will too. If it turns out being true, and FaZe is taking 80%, somebody's like earned revenue.
That's crazy.
That is a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a situation where game YouTubers and streamers and stuff, it's still fairly new. And you have these people who are quite young getting very successful, and they need help with management. They need help with maybe getting brand deals or dealing with emails or whatever it is. And they don't really have the support or knowledge or experience behind them to know what is good and what is bad and what they should look out for and what they shouldn't look out for. So this has been happening for a while, where companies are really taking advantage of that. They're taking advantage of the fact of, you just want to play video games, right? You just want to play games and you just want to deal with your community. We'll deal with everything else. And they've managed to sneak in quite a lot of bad stuff over the years.
Yeah.
The other side is that, just by signing with FaZe, you're pretty much guaranteed instant celebrity, right? Like, just the name, like putting the title of FaZe in front of your Twitter bio, like, that's going to provide quite a bit of cachet with it, right? So,
clout.
At what point does a company like FaZe say, well, your success is earned by you, but also by us? So, like, it's an interesting topic. It'll be fun to watch this kind of.
I think what you often find with these things as well, like in light of a lot of these situations, it often kind of kickstarts kicks a certain aspect of the industry into order, right? Because I mean, as you were sort of saying, like this whole content creation, streaming, YouTube and whatnot is still, in the grand scheme of things, in its infancy. There's a lot of things that a lot of companies, a lot of things still don't necessarily understand everything. And invariably, when something like this does come to light, then people are like, "Oh, okay, we need to start thinking about this aspect of it," and then it starts to, things start to fall in line. So it's probably more so interesting to sort of see what the wider impact will be outside of like I'm sure they'll settle their debate, but like, what does this then, trigger as a result?
What kind of precedent it sets for future companies and all that?
Yeah.
Because it's very similar also to music business boy bands getting taken advantage of, or bands in general getting taken advantage of by record labels, having these multi-record, multi-tour type of deals that just like essentially take 80% or take the majority of their profits because they're putting them into that position to be able to do that stuff. Very, very similar stuff going on. So again, on one end, it's like, oh, that's a yikes, but it's also not that crazy to see happening. Be like, well, yeah.
It's not surprising at all. Yeah, you have people who, especially with streaming and YouTube stuff, right? Like you're uploading videos or you're just playing video games and all of a sudden, boop, you're super successful and you're kind of thrown into it and you don't know what to do or how to manage all of this stuff. And yeah, I'm hoping that with this, there can be some changes coming to help creators have a little bit more knowledge of what they should be looking for.
I think it's important to note that if you're ever going to sign a contract like this, it's really important to get a lawyer.
Yeah,
it's super
very important.
Otherwise, you get situations like like what we're seeing here.
Tfue.
It's like you don't necessarily know what you signed, and then you find out like a year into a contract, like, oh, I'm really being taken advantage of here.
Yeah, it was the same when YouTube was, people were trying to join networks to make money. People just wanted to get that network, right? Reaching that network was such a big goal, and it was such an achievement to get a network that networks could just knock on your door and you'd be like, hell yeah, I'll sign up. Let's do this thing. And people they weren't really looking at what they were signing at all.
Yeah.
They were just excited to have that opportunity.
Yeah, and I will say, I think it's a good thing that it is actually being discussed and looked at, because on the flip side, you could have things like the WWE, those kind of contracts where you essentially just have like a monopoly from a company that is just spitting people in and out and doesn't care about their well-being after they've done their service for the business that they've generated in the WWE. And then, it creates a bad situation. So it's good there's awareness, so then people get smart about these situations and don't there isn't like just one Faze, whatever, that becomes a monopoly controlling all this stuff, that controls all the outlets for how people can gain success from this career.
Yeah.
You guys want to talk about some Game of Thrones? You want to go spoiler heavy on some?
Before we jump into anything, guys, if you have not seen the final episode of Game of Thrones and you care about not being spoiled, this will be the time to turn everything off, step away, put it away. If you don't care about being spoiled, then hey, because we're not going to hold anything back. I think in order to have a full discussion about this, it's really meaningful and cool. We kind of need to get into
the series done.
Yeah, I gotta say, guys, I haven't seen a love scene like the one between Tyrion and that dragon in my entire life. It was
the CGI,
really tastefully done too. Tastefully done.
Do we need to give a breakdown of what happened in the final episode and then jump into?
I think we could assume that everybody's seen it, right? Okay. So I think we could talk about our impressions of not only the final season but the final episode.
Yeah.
For me, they're actually two different things, right? I was not keen on the final season at all, but I felt better about it after the final episode. Did I say final season or final episode? I did not like the final season. I did like the final episode.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay.
I'm kind of, I'm like a little bit flipped, actually. I was enjoying the season, and then it wasn't that I didn't like the final episode. It was just, it felt very, just kind of like even keeled. I was like, okay, all right, that's what's
a little too neat for a Game of Thrones ending, maybe.
Not necessarily neat. It was, it was more like, for me, I was looking for maybe some Hollywood finish, which would have meant it wouldn't have meant Bran being on there. Would have meant like Jon Snow being the king or something like that. But instead, it was more like they got what they wanted on a personal level. And for me, on the outside looking in, I'm kind of like, oh, but I want you to be something else. And they're like, but this is what we want.
We don't care what you want.
Yeah, exactly. It felt more even keeled.
That show has never cared about what you want, though.
Totally,
right?
exactly.
It's always just told its story.
Yeah, the final episode is, I don't know, the weird thing for me was sort of some of the there's there's there've been a couple of really good episodes that I've really enjoyed in the series. Obviously, the battle and those ones like that. But then this final episode almost just felt like Sunday afternoon TV versus like Hollywood movies. Because it's just like, hey, half of the episode is like, oh, we're just walking through the town and everything's burning, and let me just go for a Sunday stroll and let me walk through and think about everything in life. And it's like, I mean, I know there's, I know it's not going to be battle 24/7, but there was a lot of walking in this episode.
There was.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, I think the thing that annoyed me, because like I know some people weren't too keen on the previous episode, and I know that like for me, I wasn't too fussed about it. I appreciate everything felt a little bit rushed, but my main gripe that still carried on to this episode from the last one was just the fact that Cersei got off so flipping easily just by getting squashed by some bricks.
See, I love that because our expectations was for her to have like some dramatic, big death, right? Like, she's Cersei. She's the worst person we've ever seen. So she deserves like a spectacular death, but no, she dies crying and weakly. It just gets crushed under a bunch of rocks.
And she
like,
saw
to me, it
everything.
subverts expectations. Yeah, it subverts expectations and actually gives her what she deserves, because she doesn't deserve to go out like a fucking champion or a queen. No, she just got squished.
Yeah, she watched her entire life get destroyed, and then her right hand man, the mountain, be like, tell her to piss off, and then die in the rubble of her mistakes. So like,
no fanfare, just die.
Yeah.
So
what I was disappointed about was that Jaime was there supporting her, because that to me does not add up.
That whole thing was weird for me.
Like the complete character arc of him over the last 7 or 8 years, like for him to do what he did, it just like I couldn't see that. I couldn't see that decision being made in his head.
I have a lot of problems with the way that they've gone about concluding things. But to focus on the final episode and what kind of happened to Daenerys' arc specifically, Emilia Clarke did an interview in The New Yorker talking all about how she thought about the final season, what did she want more of. So I just wanted to read what she personally said, what she wanted more of, because I think that kind of nails it for me, and I can kind of explain why that is. So she says that she would have loved more scenes with her and Missandei, and she would have liked more scenes with her and Cersei. And she says that there was this big genocide, and that was always going to happen. But she thinks that the dissection and beautifully written scenes between conversations between characters is what could have really made this feel better. So she would have liked to have more conversations with Cersei and really building that tension. Mm-hmm. And I think that kind of nails it pretty well for me, because immediately I was like, oh, I'd really like to see her descent into madness kind of be this back and forth between her and Cersei. And there's these conversations and they're really tense and they're building that rivalry and that relationship between them too. And she starts with just hating Cersei, and then she ends up kind of putting that towards, well, I hate King's Landing. I hate everything. And I think that descent into madness would have felt a bit more rewarding for me if she had more of those scenes. And also if she had more scenes with Missandei. Like, we know that they've been together for forever. And we know that they have a really close relationship. But specifically having those be in the final season where she's really having these intimate moments with Missandei and then she gets her head taken off, I think that would make it more of an emotional, powerful impact for us as viewers actually watching that happen. Yeah, so I think that when she's put that, I was like, yeah, basically. Yep.
You know, if you watch like season 1 through 4, they didn't show these big battles, right? They'd show everybody getting ready for them and talking about planning for them, and you know, the intricacies of the politics that, you know, makes these battles happen. And then they'd skip to after the battle and they tell you who won. You know, they'd show Jaime got captured during the battle. You know, like they'd show like Tyrion getting up from the mud or being carted away from the battle. But they wouldn't actually spend a lot of time on the battle itself. That's kind of what the books did too. In the final season, like 2/3 of the entire season is just people fighting, right? It's not about why they're fighting or the motivations or the conversations or like, it just, the tone of that show changed very dramatically from the beginning of it to the end of it. And the people who loved it at the beginning, I don't feel like are really they don't feel satisfied by just watching shit blow up on screen. It's not that kind of audience, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But that's really what they leaned into in the last season, is really
the
fight.
I think I think a lot of this for me comes from the difference in writing styles between George R.R. Martin and D&D, who write the shows. George R.R. Martin seems to he goes on an adventure with these characters, and he has an idea in his head of where he wants things to end up. But if a character takes this turn and he thinks it's really interesting, he'll explore that. He wanted to have 3 books, and it ended up being eventually will be 7. Who knows? It might even be 10 or 12. Who knows where he's going? But he feels like he more so goes on this adventure with his characters, and he doesn't force them into an ending. He kind of goes around and really explores it. Whereas D&D, we're like, this is the ending that we want to do, and we're just going to do what we need to do to get there. Yeah, there's actually there was an image on Twitter that showed an intricate maze, and it's like season 1 through 5, and it's like all these intricacies around the maze, and then season 8 and 7 was just like beeline to the end. They weren't doing any of those intricacies.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of, and that's where you get the plot armor, right? Because they're like, we want this ending. Nothing can stray from it. This is the ending we want. So you end up getting the plot armor, and you end up with it feeling very rushed.
Yeah. I think there's no doubt it's obviously rushed from what it could have been if they had the full book content. That being said, it was still incredibly entertaining TV. And even when Game of Thrones is rough, it's better than 95% of the stuff that's out. Like it's just
sure.
It's entertaining stuff, just straight up. And a lot of people are saying, well, what was all this stuff worth? Why did these characters have these arcs? And I think in a lot of ways, it's the journey. It's the journey that you went through is the reason these characters had these arcs. Like the emotion that you got from these characters is very difficult to achieve in other TV shows. Like Daenerys essentially committing genocide is a different way to kill off a character. And you feel very different emotions from that death of a character than you would have if they just straight up slit her throat or something, or some other, if Arya had to go in for an assassination. And I honestly feel like that those moments that you go through on the show, like that's the journey, and it's an incredible experience.
So I didn't feel like I was on a journey anymore. I felt like they're just trying to get me to, they're kicking me out of the bar because it was closing time, right?
Get out of here, Star Wars style, bitch.
Yeah, right? It's like Tyrion was like one of my favorite characters from any movie or TV show of all time, right? It was just watching him kind of like manipulate his way through this situation and that situation, watching the awful way his family treated him, but like the way he was able to like use his wits to, just constantly like get out of situations or to, defend King's Landing. Then to watch him in the final 2 seasons just become like kind of like this real stupid ass character that like he was so fixated on like trying to get Cersei to like give up, which nobody thought was going to happen, and he just repeatedly makes the same mistake over and over again. It just did not feel like him at all.
That's his sister, and it's also his hometown.
Yeah, he's the guy who killed his father, don't forget. Like, family's not everything.
Totally. But that also highlights, like, the point of all this is, like, it's very complex emotions, very complex human emotions that are going on here. And, of course, he's not just going to be like, it's a lost cause, so I'm not going to try it. Like, he said he was going to, if he had to sacrifice his life to try to save all those people, then he was going to do it. Because he's, he realized
that's his role. But then in the last episode, he gives himself up, that, like, in a way that there's no benefit to how he gave himself up by throwing his Hand of the King like pin down the stairs in front of everybody. How does that advance his position at all? Like, how does that advance the way he wants this to go?
In my viewpoint of that, he had already signed the document that said he was going to die in his mind.
Yeah, because when he let his brother out.
He's a dwarf. He left his brother out. How is he going to get away from this situation? He's the Hand of the King. He's marked. So instead of like trying to run from the fact that he's clearly going to die, he decided to make a statement by like, this is clearly wrong. The Hand of the King is making a statement to all of the soldiers that this is wrong.
I feel like the Tyrion of season 3 is trying to like maneuver this guy and make a deal with that guy, and I'll pay off this person so that he fights for me, he fights Grey Worm for me, or like something is like Tyrion is the schemer, he's like the manipulator, he's the smartest guy in the room in every room,
but he got out manipulated.
Did he?
And also, like towards the end,
the writing just suck.
I mean, maybe, but I think also towards the end, he's kind of like, he'd lost everything, right? He's like, the city was in ruins, like everything that he'd been ultimately, like the reason he'd been sort of strategizing up until that point was to kind of get them to that point, and then they were there, and he's like, well, what else can I really do, right? So maybe, I mean, partly from a writing point of view, it tied up a loose end, but also from him, you could kind of probably say that he was just like, well, this is not much. I'm not going to get through to her, so like I'm done.
Yeah.
I think the most disappointing thing for me, because I didn't hate how it ended, but the most disappointing thing for me was how I completely lost all emotion towards Daenerys, who I actually really cared about. But because of that build up in season 8 specifically, and I honestly think the show probably needed more seasons than we even can imagine, because there's been 60 episodes, and then they had 13 to tie it up, which is very, very hard to try and do that. But I just ended up not really caring. I didn't have that, oh, she died, oh my god, I can't believe. I was just like, oh, well, yeah, of course. I didn't have that emotional attachment anymore. I didn't feel the devastation. And I think it's because of just the build up to it was, yes, it was foreshadowed, and yes, she's done questionable things before, but the actual descent into madness I think could have been done beautifully. And I think we've missed out on some real beautiful storytelling by that being rushed. Like if you read about the Mad King's descent into madness in the book, it's a crazy story, and it's a very prolonged story, and you really feel that torment inside of that character. And I would have loved to really see the torment in her, and I would have even liked to maybe see her rule for a little bit longer than what seemed to be 5 minutes before she gets
I almost
killed.
wish that they had killed her in the last episode so they could just deal with like the aftermath in this episode, because you knew that she was going to die in this episode, right? Like everybody,
when she had no remorse,
you just knew.
You knew.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. I wanted to see more of her explanation to us as the audience of how she managed to go from I free innocent people to I burn innocent people, and I wanted to see how that perspective changed. And we had like a conversation with John that kind of put that was the only thing that we had to really put that in perspective of us understanding her new mindset. But I would have loved to have seen that kind of play out a little bit further.
So
I would agree with that.
So I agree. Definitely having more scenes, more obviously storytelling to flesh out those pathways. I still felt extremely emotional when both she became essentially the Mad Queen and then also John killing her, because like for me, I was like, damn, that is, I'm emotionally depleted. Like that like I felt that stuff and I was connected to it. I didn't have a disconnect from her going down that path and it not meaning anything to me. To me, it was like, wow, this happened. She confided to him and said that the world needed to be changed still, even after she burnt King's Landing. And he was like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to do this. But, but he still had love for her. And like the whole duties killing love type of thing that was going on. And I for me, that was extremely emotional. And I thought
that conversation with Tyrion and Jon Snow, like in the jail cell, I thought was some of the best acting I've ever seen by
the acting has
Peter
been absolutely
Dinklage. Like,
phenomenal.
It was stunning. Yeah, like the whole episode was really well acted.
I will say to put even, I guess, more perspective on. So Emilia Clarke, during that interview with the New Yorker, she said that during her final moments, she wanted the audience to think of her as having like this childish kind of love and this childish kind of viewpoint and see her in this childish way. And I think the way that they tried to do that, right, was that she was like, when I was young, I thought this chair would be this crazy thing because it's made of 1,000 swords. And she's talking about being a child. And then when she's talking to John, you can see this pure kind of love coming from her. So I thought that was really interesting reading that, her perspective of how she wanted to leave that character and how she wanted to portray that and how she wanted us to all think of Dany in the end as this like childish, pure love for John. And yeah.
What did you guys think about Bran winning the Game of Thrones? Like he becomes king and I felt like it was out of nowhere.
He's just always annoyed me. He's just like, he just sits in the corner and just doesn't say stuff, and he's just like, for him to like, I don't know. I was kind of hoping, especially given that Sam was there at the end. It's kind of the predictable ending, but I was kind of hoping that he would have then revealed to them the truth. He would have kind of brought out the scriptures and kind of explained that, oh, he is the true king, and then suddenly like Grey Worm would have been like, oh, suddenly I realize I've made a mistake, kind of thing. So yeah, for him, I know if anything, I thought maybe instead it might have been Sansa instead. So he's a bit of a
He seems like, it doesn't seem like he could be a little bit evil because he knew that all of this was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been like just having everything unfold like, yeah, I'm going to be the king. So, I mean, it's like, he knew all of this was going to happen. He knew how it was going to play out. And I understand that probably as his position, he can't be like, guys, the whole place is going to be burnt down. We must stop it. Because I'm sure he's supposed to let history unfold. But he always has this kind of weird
king. To just let shit happen?
Well, this is the thing. What is he actually going to do as king? I'm pretty sure it's going to be his council who are actually ruling, and then he's just kind of there, partying with the crows and the wolves.
Yeah, doing raven journeys.
He's trying to find Drogon, right? He's like, let me see if I can find out where the dragon has gone. Why?
Yeah. Why? Right?
So he can control it.
Why?
Yeah, I think him being king was probably the biggest thing in that episode that made me kind of go, all right, Like, it didn't kill it for me, but it didn't make me go, or anything like that. It was like...
Yeah, it didn't kill it for me either, but it was kind of left field a little bit.
The best part for me was Sansa basically being like, he can't get it up, guys, so wheel's broken.
Yeah.
Because he ain't making no babies.
Yeah.
I like Sansa in this episode. Like, Sansa's journey's been a long one and a tumultuous one. I liked her in this episode. Like her getting crowned king of or queen of the North, I thought was really good. I like that quite a bit.
Yeah.
I like Arya going on her adventure. I think
I want that to be a new series.
I would love that to be, honestly. Because who knows what's out there? You can write whatever you want out there because it's territory that hasn't been stepped on yet. Discovered.
Yeah.
I was really disturbed when they made her have a nude scene in like the third episode or second episode. As far as I'm concerned, she's still a 12-year-old girl.
She looks like she does look like a child, even though she's
too soon.
You watch her grow up, and it's very awkward.
Yeah. It's like,
yeah.
It was really weird.
I thought also it's great how they basically started with the Starks and those storylines, and essentially gave us an ending for the Starks that were still alive. And I really appreciated that because, again, it wasn't a Hollywood ending. A Hollywood ending would have been like, he's the true king. Aegon Targaryen, let him reign, and everybody's like, yeah, Jon Snow's the best. This is great, because he's the king now. And it's like, no, that's the Hollywood version. It's instead the Stark family got to do what they were destined to do, essentially. Like Sansa was destined to rule the North.
I mean, this is the last generation of Starks, right? There will never be another Stark.
Yeah. Jon got to go north and live with the wildlings. He fell in love in the north, in the wildlings, and he's with Ghost, thank God. Ghost is going up there with them.
Was that a little cop out though? Like I don't feel like Grey Worm lets that guy go. Like he kills Jon Snow.
That whole thing was a bit. So the pacing of that was a bit weird because it was like they immediately cut to King's Landing and then they immediately cut to like there's a prisoner and now it's been weeks later and now we're having this talk and then he's a prisoner but he's still going to give this giant speech about how we're going to change the world and I'm totally going to let that happen even though I hate him and he should be dead. Yeah. So that felt very jarring. And I think that was a really good example of how they had to compress things.
Yeah, totally.
Because that felt super compressed.
You needed like 30 minutes of scenes.
The speech was really well done by Peter Dinklage, but you're right.
Grey Worm's like, shut up. Okay, never mind. Just go at it.
Grey Worm goes from murdering anybody he sees because he's so fucking furious.
Right.
To not killing Jon Snow after he kills Daenerys. Like, I don't see it. I see Grey Worm killing him on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that transition, we just like they left it into thin air because they didn't know. They didn't know how would Jon Snow leave that tower where he killed Daenerys.
Just don't put it in.
They're like, fast forward. They put him in jail. He has to pay for his sins.
I feel like I'm being kind of negative, but I really did actually like this episode. Like I thought it was really good. But I gotta say, the most cringy thing I've ever seen in this entire show was Sam's democracy speech. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like I like how they shut it down by just laughing at him, but it was just so out of like it's just so out of place in that.
So that's kind of his,
And now-
that's his
and-
character, though. Yeah.
And now the Unsullied and all those dudes have gone. They've left. They've gone somewhere else
Yeah.
on a boat.
And the
on a journey.
Dothraki are just roaming
Magic
around
boat.
King's Landing.
There's just on a horse.
Yeah.
So they went to Missandei's home
Right.
island, right? Which is covered in poisonous butterflies, according to the book. And if you didn't grow up on that island, if you go there, the butterflies poison you and you die. So basically, they're all going to die.
Game of Thrones.
Fair enough.
Yeah, the John thing was a little like, okay, he's being sent to the wall. And some people are like, well, why did he have to leave when Grey Worm's gone, right? They're gone. How would they know? Maybe, I don't know, maybe word gets back to them and they come and invade and you just don't want to deal with that. But if the North is a truly independent place,
Right.
could he not have just gone back to the North? Or would that be, maybe will be a battle and we don't want to deal with that?
I don't know. Like, if he's so honorable, like, that's his character to be so honorable
Exactly.
that if he makes that decision,
Mhm.
like, he's going to keep it.
Yeah, his word is his word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he
Although
doesn't
technically,
stay
he
on
didn't
the
keep it
wall.
the first time.
I'm hoping he doesn't stay on the wall and he does, when we saw them heading further into the Wildlings territory, that he just goes and just stays there.
Yeah.
He doesn't come back to
Yeah.
the wall.
That's the impression I got. You know, again, he fell in love
Yeah.
in the North. He became like the leader of the free people up there. Or the wildlings. So
I will say that I think the best character in all of this was Drogon. Like, he is what made me feel emotion about Daenerys dying, because he nudged her and that was very sad.
Yeah, that was
And then
sad.
so there's been a lot of talk about why he burned the Iron Throne, and so
And why he
dragons
didn't
are
burn
said
Jon
to be
Snow?
dragons are said to be really intelligent. Even in the show, it's been said that they're more intelligent than humans. And then in the books, they kind of like share. They even said this in the show, that they share a kind of soul with their riding partner, not just all Targaryens, but their riding partner. So it's been said that Drogon knew that the person or the thing that truly killed his mother was the throne. It was that hunger for power.
interesting.
And he was the one that truly broke the wheel by destroying the throne. And he continued to do what his mother set out to do. And then he left.
That's poetic.
It
I
is
don't see why
poetic.
he didn't kill Jon Snow.
Maybe
Like,
well,
he's already doing
you,
the whole fire breathing thing.
if you follow
So-
if you follow that theory, it's that the throne is the one that truly killed his mom and not Jon Snow, and he understands why that happened, and he's like, I'm breaking this thing, I'm getting out of here. I've had enough of this.
See, the dragon suddenly had common sense.
He's smart. He's a smart boy. Smart, good boy.
So we know there's more Game of Thrones coming, right?
There's spin-offs.
Spin-offs.
Yeah, there's one that's
Yeah.
that's literally being made. I think what did they say? There was 3 in total that they have planned. Is it 3?
3 different spin-offs?
Yeah.
Oh
But I know
my
one
God.
of them is being shot, which is the pre to all of this. So, I mean, but this is written by completely different people. It's not going to be a Game of Thrones kind of thing. It's going to be a prequel, and it's written by different people, and it's being done by different people.
Yeah.
So
This is-
the stories before this they're really good stories. So
Yeah.
I think they could be really cool.
Mr. Martin needs to finish Game of Thrones first before
I
he
wanna
can
read it,
potentially write a
man,
prequel.
because even if this story is the exact same ending, I want to read how he writes it.
Yeah.
Because I think that like I said, my biggest disappointment and the thing that I'm actually sad about is I think there could have been some beautiful storytelling with Daenerys' descent and her eventful death.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd really like to see what he does with Jaime, with Varys, with like some of the more secondary characters that weren't necessarily like. Yeah, I'd love to see what happens with that. I was really disappointed with Jaime's ending. I was really disappointed with Varys' ending. Like, there's a lot of things that just felt like that's not how it would have. Like, that doesn't make sense to like who how their character has been like developing. Like, it just doesn't.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
I think we better wrap
Somehow
it up.
we managed to turn an hour
Yeah.
episode into an hour,
Hour and a half. We are way over time, guys.
It could have been a lot worse.
We had a lot of meat that we had to dig into right there.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that is episode 2 of DCP SideQuest in the books, right?
Yeah.
In the books, yes.
Nice.
We did it.
If you want to
Quest complete.
Yeah, quest complete, exactly.
Yeah. We need to have that. We need an animated quest complete thing that pops up when the show's
Little
over.
sound effect.
That'd be pretty good.
Yeah, I like that idea. If you want to find more of me, you can talk to me at Teft on Twitter. Also catch my streams, twitch.tv/TeftyTeft. Usually 6 o'clock Pacific time. It hasn't really been 6 o'clock Pacific time for like a couple months, honestly, now that I think about it. I might be doing some earlier streams to split it up as well. So
we're going to be doing some comp, right?
We're doing comp this week, yes. Got to get that reckless.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Who's next?
I am Miss 5000 Watts. You can talk to me on Twitter. Just look for Miss 5000 Watts, and I will be streaming in about 15 minutes. If you want to come hang out, play some video games, I'm going to do some Iron Burden for a bit. Get that finished before it goes away forever. I'm not doing crazy Iron Burden. Just Wizened Rebuke Iron Burden. So you can catch that at Miss 5000 Watts on Twitch.
Awesome. You can find me over on Twitter, Arix, and over on YouTube, Scuf Gaming, for those different gaming videos, all that good stuff.
I'm Briar Rabbit. You can find me over on Twitter if you want to talk to me there or doing whatever. Oh, me and Tefty were on the Planet Destiny podcast last night.
It was a lot of fun.
So their most current podcast, it was like a 200th episode celebration. It was a lot of fun. We had a good time over there last night. So go check out the Planet Destiny podcast this week.
Yeah, it was a good time.
But don't stay. Make sure you come back to DCP.
All right. Thank you very much for watching, guys. We will see you next week. Same time, 1 p.m. Pacific time on Mondays for SideQuest. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, guys.
Take it easy.
Bye.
Bye, guys.